The higher your IQ, the more dangerous this trap I'm about to share with you becomes. Look, if you're an intelligent or at least reasonably intelligent human being and you're still stuck, what I'm about to tell you is why. And before we even get started, know this that it's almost as if before you get to that place of thinking, why am I stuck? Why am I screwed up? Why am I freaking out? Or why am I just not pushing record? Why am I not just taking action? What you're experiencing isn't weakness, it's in some form a signal of overload. So I want to share this with you because I'm having that, experiencing that right now. Because this is a commitment I've made to myself is that I want to record a YouTube video every day. And the amount of resistance that I've felt, the amount of friction that I've had is crazy because I shoot video all the time. In fact, I used to be able to just throw a camera up in front of my face and just start talking. And so here it is this morning when I've made this commitment, I'm like getting all stuck in my head. So if you've ever felt that, then you can relate. I can relate. So I see this all the time with smart people, and of course, I'm living it right now. So I want to share with this with you that each day I'm going to be sharing a piece of information, completely uncut, completely off the cuff. I'm going to look weird. I'm going to be awkward. I'm going to not get it right all the time. But I want to do this because what I've noticed is that everything else seems perfect in this world of artificial intelligence, and I don't want to be that anymore. Now, I'll probably still do, some fancy videos where I have some cuts, but for this kind of stuff, what you're experiencing today, this is just gonna be me off the cuff and just sharing my heart. And so what I want to kind of share with you is why? Why do we do these things? Because I actually know why, and I'm showing this as an example for you because I think this is the most relevant way. And it's this it's almost like we put more responsibility on what is about to happen, whether it's starting a new launch, whether it's executing a new plan, whether it's having that conversation with that certain somebody, if it's taking that choice to jump or to act in a certain way. What happens is we get that thing going in our head and we take up too much responsibility. We put too much value on the outcome instead of value on the actual action itself. Today is a perfect example. I'm in a place where I want to create daily content. I've thought about this for a long time, and then I started to say, well, what are the pillars of this content? What are the themes? And then how do I approach this to my ideal client? How do I make money with this? How do I get the right keywords? How do I dot, dot, dot? And I start getting so strategic that I become paralyzed. And then the more that I get frustrated, the more the internal noise in my head starts to rise. And on the outside, um, you try to put on a pretty face, but on the inside, it's like that duck paddling on water, above everything's cool, calm, and collected, but underneath it's like paddle like hell. And this has been something that I've experienced in my life for years. Uh, my first business was a nonprofit youth center called Rockwater, and I started it with my brother in central Wisconsin. It was really, really a heart project in the facet that we loved the arts. My brother had a music background. I was a musician. We wanted to create this arts-driven youth center in our hometown where we grew up. And we had this prominent corner in the downtown. It was amazing. We had over 15,000 kids come through our doors. We served coffee as a coffee shop, and at the time, we were the first cyber cafe. So we had internet. This is like 1998, 99 when we opened. And every weekend we would do concerts. We also did like poetry nights and like jazz nights and things of that nature, and it gave opportunity for people to perform and for kids to come and experience this kind of entertainment while they hung out with each other. And we always said, anyone will talk about life over a cup of coffee. And that became kind of our mission, is to speak into these young people's lives through some life education. And we did some music festivals, and one of the major opportunities we had was to replace a local event that was happening every summer with our own. We saw it as an opportunity that this thing had gotten canceled. We're like, oh, well, let's do our thing instead. And we planned this thing called Rockwater Fest. It was a big music festival. And so we tapped into all of our sources, got a bunch of friends. We overcommitted, over leveraged on a bunch of areas we shouldn't have in our naivete. And right before the show was to start, we had thunder showers come in. For us to break even for the amount of investment we put into this event, which included skateboard and BMX performances by people who were in the X Games. We had main stage of our headliner was a band called Train. We had all these different artists and activities, and we were on the hook for a lot of money. And those thunder showers came in. We needed 4,000 people to show up for our event for it to break even, and we only had 1,400. That's 1,400 people. I lost $72,000 that weekend. And for our little organization, that was a lot of money, and that sucked on so many levels. The amount of pressure that it created for our small organization. And I wasn't making any money. In fact, I was living off the tip jar for gas money. This is just, like I said, this was a mission. But I thought I could turn it around. So I just worked harder to prove to everyone else, to prove to my board and to the community that, I can do this. On the outside, everybody thought we had this great thing going. We had great marketing, we had great branding, we had these great events. But on the inside, I would get bogged down. Just that pressure would get in my head, that noise. And what would take me, maybe let's say, half an hour to get done, suddenly was taking me like 3, 4, 5 hours to get done. Because that pressure would create a freeze. And I couldn't take action on the things that were going to turn things around. And the more pressure there was, the harder it was for me to move. And that's when we realized there are some things that happen to us in our businesses that are creating conflict in our brain, in our emotions, in the chemicals, in the way that we carry ourselves. And it gets incredibly uncomfortable because you're like, I'm smarter than this. I know, reasonably, I know how to do this. Why is it suddenly becoming such a problem? And as we go in these daily videos, I'll share more about that period of my life if you don't already know it. But I just want to share that as an example of how pressure can make us actually get conflict. And that's where the trap comes, is because now you feel like whatever that next choice is the only choice. And if I get it wrong, I'm going to screw up. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to, and we mount up the stakes on the choices we have to make. Now, in that particular situation, that was some high stakes. I did not know how to regulate my emotion. I didn't know how to regulate what was going on in my head, my heart, my body. And I've written a book that's going to be coming out soon. You'll hear all about it. That speaks to that kind of pressure. But for today, I want to share with you kind of these two sides. So, one is what has happened to me, but number two is what I've seen in other people. And this is where I think it can become relevant to you. Years later, from that story I just shared with you, I was running an innovation association that I'd started, and I'm working with all these senior level executives from Fortune 500 brands. And it was all around this area of innovation. And at the time, Uber, Lyft, Airbnb, TaskRabbit, all these peer-to-peer type businesses, this crowdfunding, crowd lending, crowdsourcing, all of that was coming online, and we were tracking all of that with my colleague. He did all the data and analytics, and where all the funding was coming from, what venture capital was involved. So he handled all of that side on the analysis. I handled all the people side. And so I'm talking with these different leaders. And one in particular, I remember we'd have these conversations, and he's like, it isn't so much the innovation of new ideas. He said, is the friction of trying to bring new ideas into an organization that threatens other organizations within the company. And so he felt like he always had a target on his back. And one of the things I'd share with him is like, we don't put our value on our employment, we put our value on our employability. Because if you get canned from this company, someone else is looking for someone who thinks like you think, not just an intrapreneur, but someone who can think outside the box. And the pressure that this guy was sharing was that I would come up with this great idea. I would try and run it up the flagpole, and some people would agree, some people would be threatened, and then my job would be on the line, and then I'd have to like position myself to play the politics of trying to get this idea across. And then underneath the pressure of that, he said he would freeze. He would get uncomfortable, and the right words wouldn't come out of his mouth, and he'd start to fumble, and he wouldn't look as competent or confident. And so what I've observed through time is that the more the pressure rises, the more our brains start to freeze. It doesn't matter how brilliant you are. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You can solve everyone else's problems, as this executive could. People would come to him all the time like, what do we do about this? What do we do about this? But the moment it's like something for you, when it's something about your life, when it's something about your career, when it's something that matters to you, suddenly you freeze. You get to a place where you can't function. And it's not that you're afraid. It's more like you're overloaded. You're overloaded with the stakes that you've built in your head, the value you've placed on this next decision, the fact that if it doesn't work out, you think everything will fail. And by fail, it's going to be catastrophic. That's what you form in your head. That's where we get ourselves. So I had my seasons, and I just share with you one story. I can share with you hundreds of stories. And through the course of this, you'll hear them all. And you perhaps are in places where you know exactly what to do. You know right here, right now, what steps I should take to get to where I want to go, to get to that new role, to take on the new company, to get that funding. You know exactly what to do, but for whatever reason, you can't do it. It's not because you're confused. It's not because you're dumb. It's not because you're broken. It's not because any of that. It's because everything around you right now feels loud. And especially in this day and age with so much going on, so much change, so much transition, so much artificial intelligence as I started this whole thing, like threatening this thing, that thing, whatever the stakes are that you are building, your system is getting overloaded. And the clarity you have on your next step, it's not that it is disappearing. It's getting buried underneath the weight of all the stories you've been telling yourself. And I'm not going to go into all that right here, right now, about limiting beliefs and stories from your past. And there's all sorts of psychological, there's physiological areas that cover this. And we will talk about that another time. What I want you to know today is that if you are intelligent, if you are smart, if you have a high IQ, you're not freezing because you're weak. You're freezing because you're carrying too much, carrying the load, carrying the weight. You're thinking too fast, and you're trying to be responsible for everything at once. And the truth is, the only thing you're responsible for is just the next step. And to put all your weight on all the other things, like what happens to this, and then what's that, this, and then who's going to get affected by this, and like it will drive you mad, crazy. So the smarter you are, the easier it is for you to stay stuck, to even rationalize the reason why you should be stuck. And this is the issue, is we start to get so invested in an outcome that we have no control over that we disqualify ourselves from taking just the simple first next step to find out what the next step will reveal. And for me, I'm in this example right here, right now, today, even freaking doing this video where it's taking me an hour and a half longer just to get started, to hit record. And even while I was hitting record, my heart was pounding. I'm like, just go, just hit record. And here I am. Stop trying to think your way out of this stuff. Learn to get quiet. Quiet the noise in your head first. And later we'll talk about, all the techniques and stuff like that. I've got some tools down below that I'll put into the comments, or not the comments, but whatever the thing is down below that can help you. But if this feels familiar, if this feels like I'm talking to you, know that you're not broken. Know that you're not screwed up. Know that you're not missing the mark. Know that you're not alone, right? Just know that right now you're overloaded. And when you need clarity, when the clarity matters, there are some certain tools, some certain actions, some certain things you can do that will help relieve the pressure, to help you reset underneath the pressure. And let me be clear, like the pressure is not bad. The pressure is just not defined properly. Because if we're going to be honest, you perform well under pressure. Like that's what you do. That's how you got where you got. That's why you're different. You're built different because you operate well under pressure. But this is a different kind of pressure, right? This is self-applied. This is I won't go into all this. There's stuff you're doing to add to that weight. And if you want help with some of that, again, I'll put some links down below that will have some tools about this. But I want to say thanks for watching. This is the first video that I'm doing in a series of daily videos that I'm going to show up every day to give you a part of my heart, a part of my life, and keep it real. Because what I know in this day and age is that it's really easy to think that everyone else has it perfect. And therefore, I have to look perfect. And I don't want to look weak. I don't want to look like I don't have it all together. And it's this intellectually, that's just simply not true. But for whatever reason, we think that if we show weakness, if we show vulnerability, if we show whatever, that we actually are arming someone else, giving them leverage, giving them some kind of weaponry to take us down. That in of itself is an unnecessary, unrealistic, unreasonable pressure we place upon ourselves. And so I'm done. I'm done doing that. And I'm going to help you get done doing that too. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.